And also, if, while we're at that, if we could reach down and mute or turn off, Terry, our cell phones.
I don't even have it.
We're going to get started. So calling the budget meeting to order. It is a little after 1 p.m. on June 12th, 2018. Have all three commissioners present. Anything else we need to know before we get going? No? Okay. Looks like our first folks up today is going to be information technology. So we will hear first from Kathleen. And again, I believe we are streaming this live. Is that correct? Yes, we are. So all you folks, look right up there. All you folks out there in streaming land, we welcome you. Kathleen, go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, Commissioners. Good afternoon. Information Technology, or IT, is headed by Director Stephen O'Mara, providing 24/7 technology support to the county's 1,800 employees through a work of six departmental divisions. The maintenance of 2,200 computers, 1,100 printers, 2,127 desktop phones, 279 tablets, and all county-owned mobile phones is handled daily by the Customer Support Division. The Project Management Division is the liaison between IT and the county departments for the support and acquisition, the support and acquisition of implementation of new technology. The management and maintenance of network access to 32 county sites, 4 data centers, 350 plus servers, running all applications used throughout the county, as well as cybersecurity for the entire infrastructure, is handled entirely by Enterprise Services Division. The Development Division creates and maintains all enterprise business applications, as well as all third-party integrations for on-premise, cloud, and web platforms. IT's GIS division continues to expand its response to increased demands for geospatial applications and data. Lastly, the Business Operations Division oversees the procurement of all county hardware, software, and maintenance, in addition to managing software licenses for compliance with all vendors. IT is a department within the current expense fund 3% cap. The budget for FY19 is submitted at $13,935,281, an increase of $3,670,349. Operating budget $7,120,588. A personnel budget of $6,814,693. Included in this budget request are supplemental requests of $3,624,796. I'd like to turn it over to Stephen O'Mara.
Thank you, Kathleen. Just a couple words before Stephen gets started. Come on up, Stephen. IT has gotten to the points within our working lives that we are extremely dependent upon them. So a lot of the projects we're seeing and a lot of the stuff that you do and your team, it's some of the things are beyond not being necessary. I don't know if that makes sense. We actually, the way we do stuff is dependent upon it, and we have to stay current with it. So it seems like year after year, the cost of being able to do those technological things just continues to rise, and it's stuff that we don't have any control over. But anyway, felt compelled to say that. The floor is yours, sir.
Thank you, sir. As I get started, I'm going to do something I don't normally do, and that's read from a script.
No.
I wrote everybody a letter here, so. Good afternoon, Mr. Chairman and Commissioners. It's a pleasure to be addressing the Ada County Board again, this time for the Ada County Information Technology Department's 2019 budget submission. To start, I'd like to thank everyone who was involved in this process for IT, namely my management team, Kathleen Graves, Tim Sturgis, Lori Beck. A special thanks to Vernine Ziegelmeyer, IT's budget officer and official herder of cats. And of course, you, the board, who have the hardest job of trying to determine the path for the entire county. Thank you for your service and your willingness to hear my words today. This marks the third time that I've done a budget as your IT director. This position serves as the most challenging and most rewarding position I've ever had. It's an honor to stand here and speak for your IT department. Every day by your direction, this department works to deliver the goods and services that all Ada County offices and departments need to be successful. When I was hired for this position, you tasked me to change the way your IT department engaged with its customers. Historically, the IT department had sat back and chose what it would and would not engage in many times. You told me that was no longer acceptable. You were looking for this department to become the trusted ally for all departments and offices. I believe we've made great strides in that arena, and the proof of that is in the volume of requests for assistance and guidance with technology products that come our way nearly every day. The success in changing IT's approach was absolutely necessary, but it does not come without a cost. You will see proof of that here today. As the department continues to evolve and mature, the future for both the county and her IT department are bright. We have much work to do. You viewed a couple of charts yesterday showing the impact of surging population growth, specifically from Ada County Sheriff Steve Bartlett and Development Services Meg Leatherman. I will not be showing you anything like that today. Population growth has little effect on your IT department directly, but the growth that pushes departments like the Ada County Sheriff's Office and Ada County Development Services pushes them to use technology for both better contact with our constituents and more efficiency within their own business units. As the IT department, we have to jump into these projects. We have no choice. Run and deliver them, or else these offices and departments will find someone else who will help them. What you will see from me today is the clear uptick in needs presented to your IT department by our customers, the other county departments and elected offices of Ada County. What I will ask for is help in managing our business well, in addition to assistance with increasing our speeds of delivery. With that, let's get started. No more script. We were asked to show successes of what we've done with the monies that were given to us last budget season. And it's a little bit difficult to take the success of the IT department and portray it in a way that really defines what it is we do. Our successes really are found in what we've done or helped our departments and offices do. A lot of that focus is on putting people back to work when they have a problem or helping them move forward with something that's new or fill a need for them. In our support division, we completed, just since October 1st, over 8,800 support requests. Those are everything from as small as a lockout of someone's credentials to a printer that won't work, or an email that no longer functions, or an additional program they need installed, or some other strangeness that's happened to their systems. On top of that, we've had another 1,558 devices purchased by IT for our departments, set up and deployed. If you put those numbers together, that's over 5 contacts per employee in the entire county. Now, granted, we're not having to talk to every employee that often since October 1st, because a lot of that is things that happen in the background that they may not be aware of. But the reality is that's how much of an impact we have on the business that the general employee for Ada County has, and us putting them back together and keeping them going so they can do their daily jobs for wherever they work. Our 24/7 call center currently right now is averaging about a 32-second average for answering calls when folks call in. That's something we're working on. Get that number down so people aren't listening to the phone ring quite that long for help. The upside of that is through that center, we have a 7-minute average to resolve an incident, assuming we're not when you exclude the critical ones, which there aren't that many. Our development it's gone off the charts. What we're working on writing is something that we've recently determined we're calling it gap development. We're not necessarily writing huge applications that run across the county anymore like we have in the past, but instead, we're writing somewhere in between one system and another, closing a gap that neither of the two systems close on their own. I'll talk more in depth about the two that you're seeing there right now. The first one is for development services. That's the client portal that will be online here in mid-July. That is what the constituents of Ada County will log in and see when they're working with development services in dealing with all the zoning and everything that those folks do. That represented a cross-functional development, symbolizing where the county IT department is no longer developing things by one person working on an entire project as we've done in the past. It actually spans the entire IT department. GIS, our web development, our on-base administrators, our Windows developers, our security folks, and our project management office. The one below, where it says ACSO Lookup on the right-hand side, that is Ada County's first private cloud application. That's not actually a piece of software that gets delivered to a machine. It's a website that we host. But in there, we're able to provide information to all law enforcement agencies, our prosecuting attorney's office, the TCAs, and the courts have used it. I know our jury office uses it, and I think a few others might even use it as well. I'll go more into depth of what that is. But my point here is these are massive development projects, and other than labor, they haven't cost the county any money at all. As a quick recap on that 2018 SIP, those are our four main SIP items that were granted to us by the board for 2018. Large infrastructure upgrade for our RMS and JMS platform. That's the records management and jail management system at the sheriff's office. We're about 75% through there. We'll be completing it shortly. We took about $500,000 for an enhanced network security assessment and setup. We started that. We got our 25% of the way in thereabouts, and we've learned a few more things. We've actually put it on hold, and we're going to push some of that money off into next year, but we're not adding to it. Our time and payroll consultant, that had to go through RFP. So a consultant was selected, went through the contract process. That will be completed by the end of this fiscal year. And our COBRA development, that client portal that I showed you just a moment ago for development services, it's about 80% complete. We're looking to go live with the entire system next month. Something I wanted to throw up there, just kind of gloss over a little bit, because we talk about cybersecurity all the time. We haven't had any major events, but that's through the due diligence of our security systems. One of the practices we do consistently is anyone who's from foreign land, they're not typically doing business with Ada County. So we drop them at our door. And what happens are bad actors out there run effectively bots that crawl around and try to find things. We blocked 30 million of them since October 1st. We've also stopped some what's known as dynamic or known threats, where we know is a specific attack that was gunning for either our websites or our domain. The 109,920 malicious sites, the URLs, those are things that were clicked on by people that work here. Be them in emails or ads off of internet, where we stopped them from going somewhere. Malicious is relative. Doesn't mean that every single one of them was a crypto, but they're places we don't want them to go by following those type of URLs. And the last one is the endpoint malicious code and exploits. Those are actual known code that got into via an email or something like that, where our system found them and shut them down. You call this a virus. 432 times since October 1st. That brings me to my next topic. We're no longer necessarily reviewing accomplishments for this year, talking about what we're actually doing. There's an increasing demand for IT services. As I explained earlier, we've had quite a deal of success. Lots of folks are coming to us for help now. It seems much more automatic. They reach out for us for our opinions, for actual project management, for the analysis of what they need to have from a piece of technology from that standpoint. And currently we're running over 125 active projects. These are new projects, things that have a delivery date. That includes software development, delivery and procurement, cybersecurity initiatives, of course, and the business analysis to make sure all of that stuff works for the department that wants it. And I mentioned yesterday a department in the sheriff's office, business systems, where they're running 90 additional projects that are new to them. They're doing the business analysis on them, but those 90 still impact the IT department because it's still software development, still software delivery, and cybersecurity, of course, still has to be there. So all in all, even though we run everyone's projects with the exception of ACSO, we impact all of them. So our portfolio is really over 200 active projects, and it grows every day. More projects come on than come off. So what does a project portfolio look like? Right now, it's not very exciting looking. Basically, a portfolio is a list. And in that list, we're tracking who's requested it, of course, who owns it. We've added something that I thought made sense, an IT focus, which I think I'll explain a little bit in my last 2 slides. But basically what that is why is it important? You'll see, this is just a small snapshot of the 200 plus projects we have. You'll see quite a few of those say modernization. That's going on rampantly. Folks wanting to change their software, add to it, replace it, get software they've never had before. It's pretty rampant. We're also tracking start dates and estimated completed dates, who on the team is running it, and of course, a project status. This is how we manage what it is we're doing. It's gotten so big, you can no longer not track it. And if somebody ever asked us what we were doing, this is what we'd give them. Where does all that money go? That's all the new stuff. Biggest impacts. Like I said earlier on a previous slide, custom development is huge. Why is this important? We've gone through, and this is the Ada County Sheriff's Office lookup once again. We've redacted some of the information from this gentleman who's, our model is John Doe. What this is, and really the easiest way for me to describe it, why this is important that we build this. As you know, TriTech is a private software company, and it loves to sell us licenses. And the Sheriff's Office has effectively 3 different systems that they own from TriTech that they use in 3 different lanes of their business. CAD for dispatch, IJ5 for the jail records, and then an RMS police record system. And whereas they are integrated across each other, the systems are talking and sharing data back and forth. That's great, but when someone needs to get in there and get some information out of it, they need a license for one of those to get that. And then they need to know how to use the system that they're logging into. So what we've done is we've gone in and we've created an aggregator. We grab that database, we pull all the pieces that make sense for the folks behind me right here who are looking for information quickly and easily, and we've aggregated it for them basically on a website, an internal website. That's our cloud application I referenced earlier. And we did have to pay for some Microsoft licensing and that sort of thing, but this was built without spending any more money with TriTech. And then we were able to open the doors and give it to more than just people at the Sheriff's Office. So I referenced the courts, prosecuting attorney's office, and our law enforcement partners all around the valley. Again, no cost to them. So we've saved a bunch of money as far as TriTech is concerned with this. As a matter of fact, TriTech knows about this. This is a part of our gap development, and they've been impressed with it. And you can look at them and kind of see the wheels turning going, boy, that's a pretty slick deal. We're not going to sell it to them. COBRA. COBRA is an acronym, currently now escapes me, of course. But this is the program that Development Services needs. It replaces their old aging system, which is known as DAPS. Now, the folks our citizens out there in Ada County have no idea what those names mean. All they know is that there's soon to be a web portal that they'll go and they'll be able to make payments for permits, file information, whatever they need to do, and it will be received in Development Services offices. What you see there is the application side, meaning this is what the Development Services employees would be looking at. We've changed the data that they can get access to and the reporting capabilities against this older system, or versus this older system that we have, that we're replacing. And we've opened up this new line of business for them. Something that we had to learn was how to manage documents that come from Joe Public. Right now, the only way we really get documents from anybody is through email. People email us all the time. They go through an email treatment for security, and there's lots of washing and cleaning that happens there to make sure that we're not ingesting anything we shouldn't. We also do some large file transfers, like with banks and title companies. Also has its own set of security, but nothing for an individual to literally just send us a file. So this is the first time we had to train folks on how to handle this from a security point of view. How do we let someone send us a document and make sure there's no payload in it? It was an extensive process. We've gone through it, and the fruits are going to come online next month. Joe Public will be able to fill out the forms he needs and anything else he needs to give development services, and he or she will be able to upload them to us. We'll wash them, contain them, make sure they're okay, and then we'll allow them into our system for development services actually to work on them. This is a little bit different from the ACSL lookup model in that it's using our enterprise document system on base to hold these documents and file them. There was a budget line item asked for, I believe, 2 budget seasons ago for $500,000 for the creation of this product, which is the workflow piece and the website. After discussing with development services and through the leadership of Meg Leatherman and Richard Beck, it was determined that IT could build this for them. Now, we have spent some money on it. We've had to buy a few licenses, do some things with our security partners, if you will. But when this comes online, we're predicting turning back about $400,000 of that $500,000. So that's a huge success as far as in-house development. We're using both an off-the-shelf platform underneath the hood and the workflow, the customization piece, the stuff that's important to the citizen or the department, we're building that in-house. Great leveraging of 2 assets we have, our developers and, of course, an enterprise software system. We've also been working pretty heavily with an outside company to come up with best practices and concepts for what a new website would look like. We've been talking about this for a while. Our website, as you may have noticed, needs a bit of a facelift, but it also needs some work from a functionality point of view. And even though we've had some offices go out and purchase designs from other places, the IT department still built them after they were designed. Even those still need some tweaks and functionality. If you look at either one of those, up near the top where it says Contact Us, you see it looks like a search bar and a series of A's. That is for ADA compliance. That's accessibility for folks who have vision impairment of some type, color blindness, trouble reading different fonts, that sort of thing. These new websites will come out with that ready to go out of the box. None of our websites anywhere are compliant for folks who have visual impairment. This is what we're moving towards. We have a lot of websites that we have to change individual pages to match to this. We're looking to have this complete by the end of the year. An offering we wanted to give to the departments that weren't going out and getting their own designs are what we call the elected office option. And we've used Prosecutor Bennett's website as an example. We had a custom logo, if you will, her badge. If you go to her website now, it's a photograph. We turned it into that watermark, so that sort of matches what we've done with the county seal. That's her website, and when you go there, it is the county prosecutor's website, but then it still has the overall look and thematic response and color palette that the Ada County website has. So we're not only going for a refresh, we're going for a standardization of what Ada County looks like out there. Now, the IT department, we did have this designed for us. We're great mechanics, but we're not body shop people. And we don't know what's best practice and what's needed in current websites because we don't design them very often. But we can build them pretty well. So we will be building these ourselves. This last one here is rather interesting, and it's one of the major projects that went in front of the Transformation Board for review. It runs on a system, for lack of a better way to describe it, it's called the F5. What you see there are a smattering of website services or SaaS offerings or software as a service. What these are softwares that we use around the county, with the exception of the employee compensation, that don't reside anywhere within our county servers. They're on the web. This is happening more and more often. Ada County IT uses ServiceNow extensively for its trouble ticketing system. All of that is hosted. The Treasurer's Office recently acquired a contract with a company called Clearwater Analytics that does their financial system for them. Again, completely hosted. Our operations department talked yesterday about their facility program that they're getting. That's going to come through here. What this does, the reason why we do this is because it allows, what we do is we stitch these systems, these web systems together with a particular piece of hardware in our network. That piece of hardware is the one that vets the employee trying to log into the system. And then it's the one that tells the web service, this is okay, let this person get in. If we didn't do that, when someone went to log into, say, Clearwater Analytics, since that's a financial program, it's a perfect example of why we don't want to do this, the treasurer's office would have to set up individual logins to that website. They would go to their website, literally leave our network across the internet and go to their website, type in their email address, and type in a password. And what has been determined over time is folks tend to use their county password. Granted, it's a county email address. This is county business, so why wouldn't they use that? And they might, and good chance they will, use their county network credential password in that website. What that has done is that has taken their identity and their password and stuck it on somebody else's server out in the cloud. They get breached. They know who we are. They know who our user is, and they got their password. They come right back here, and they open up everything. And that's how these breaches continue to happen. So what the F5 does, and what this portal is showing you here, is our credentials never leave the county. They stay within this box, lack of a better way to describe it. And the box is set up to deal with these particular software as a service applications out in the web. And it's the one that says, I have an authorized user. We're from Ada County, let us in. They do that with certificates and tokens and all kinds of other stuff. There's one other thing, and Commissioner Visser, I want to call this out to you. There's one other thing F5 lets us do, is it lets us manage cloud applications on our side. And shortly after, sir, after you took office, I believe you asked me if there was a way to view our employee compensation tools at home. At least I recall this. And unfortunately, we have a great set of employee compensation tools that everyone's familiar, but you can only access it here from our network. There was a time several years ago where you could access that from home. People wanted to print their W-2s or look at their pay stubs. But because of changes in security, we had to shut that down. This will allow us to grant that. Now, we can provide this portal, and an employee with their credentials can come to that website now securely from their house or some other internet that's not the county's network and get that information in the same box. So this is more and more of our products that are going to be purchased in the future will be these cloud applications. We're going to use this all the time, all the time. And it's live today, but it needs to be expanded. Moving on. This is where things start getting rough. Looking for 11 new positions. Looking to take a part-timer and make him a full-timer. Or the position, I should say. Reclassing 4 spots, doing 8 special salary adjustments. These are the objectives on those. First primary objective is for better success. We're looking to add 2 project managers and a business analyst. These are the people that handle the projects as they come in, and they sit with the client, in this case, elected offices or the departments, to find out what is it you're looking for, what do you need it to do, and then make recommendations on, is that something we can build, or is it something we should purchase, and then help them find it. And then whatever is decided there, purchase or build, then they manage bringing it together, shepherding that project as it becomes live, and then assessing whether or not we built what we were supposed to or got what we paid for. Really right now, we have so much business going on, we can barely do any of that. We certainly can't do it border to border on everything we're working on. We have to expand what we call our project management office. That's how we do it. Our training specialist is the part-time to full-time. Our trainer, been with the county over 20 years, recently retired. He was a great guy, and for years he'd been training people on how to use the Office platform, Excel, Word, PowerPoint, and all of that. Well, as time has gone by, people coming to the county already know all that stuff. So his training actually started to decline at the same time that he was getting ready to retire. But now we want to bring that back. County IT has never trained anybody on it formally on its own programs that it's written. And now that we're writing these GAP programs, we need to be able to train the folks that we're writing them for when we hand them over And then we need to create some kind of mechanism so we can train anybody else who comes to work for that office or department in the future. We're also looking to do little snippet videos so that we can have a library of things where folks forget how to do. Perfect example for me is our FAB system, how we do the budgeting. I really only mess with that once a year. Bernine doesn't let me do it any other time. So budget season starts rolling around, I look at that thing and I instantly glaze over. So I personally, as the IT director, could use some tips and tricks on what I need to do, what I select when I start looking at things from the live budget versus the planning budget. We need to start looking at that. We're also looking at adding some developers. Our GIS division is blowing up. Huge rewrites for some of our clients. Our web is certainly exploding, meaning not only just replacing the website, but we know we're going to be doing more business. Development services driving more citizens through their new portal like they will starting next month. That's only the canary in the coal mine. We're going to be doing more and more of that. And another software developer level 3. Then there's our quiet enterprise system. That's our network and our cybersecurity folks. An additional operations technician, a network specialist, a system engineer, and a security engineer. Even though we have a security engineer and a backup for him when he's out of town that runs those systems, the numbers that I gave you earlier, 30 million drops from foreign countries, that sort of thing. He's a couple of years from retirement. He's had a long, good career here, but he's by himself. I need to put somebody in a seat next to him before he retires to find out where everything is. That's why I'm asking for him now before he's actually put in his time. From there, we're reclassing 4 positions, all in an effort to change what it is we're doing without adding even more heads, try to become more efficient. We've added additional duties to 6 different positions, looking at small raises there. And then we have 2 market parity adjustments. All this we've run through HR, and they're aware, and they've given it the blessing that they do. That is what we're looking at as far as growth of the team. The only way we can produce for the folks that are coming to us for help in a timely manner is we have to expand the number of hands that we have with us. It used to be folks would, I should say, prior to me, based on what I was told when I took the job, people didn't really want to engage with the IT department all that often. It was easier to go outside and talk to somebody else because maybe they get more information, or the philosophy at the time of the IT was they weren't very happy with third-party application very often. I believe that was words were actually said. Didn't really want part of that because then you have to support it after it's purchased, of course. That's unrealistic, as you know. You recommended that we not do that anymore. But it all comes at a cost. As we expand and move into those systems, even though they're on the project portfolio that I showed you, and they're complete, means they're live and turned over to the client to use, for IT, they never go away. We are maintaining them. We're saving the data that comes through them. And in many cases, we're helping the owners change them or upgrade them as time goes by. So even though it drops off the delivery mechanism of the project portfolio, they go with us forever. This is for the life cycle of maintenance. This is where we start looking at a few things for the transformation board. And on here is probably the most confusing slide. I'll call that out. That's the third one. We'll get to that one last. Our first focus, these are the things that went in front of the transformation board as, I believe it was exceptional operational expenses. First one, this says number 2, that's the ranking the transformation board gave it. 2, I believe, of 6, I think were the full numbers. Remote desktop portal. You gentlemen have used a program through our AS400 mainframe that we have. Obviously, all of the county uses several programs through there. Those are good enterprise-wide programs that we've had for years developed in-house. The only problem with them, they're quite stable, they do a good job. The only problem with them is they operate assuming a particular profile on each machine that it's installed on. And that assumption requires high-level access to the machine itself. And since you log in as yourself personally, that means we as the IT department have to give you elevated credentials on that machine. And they're very elevated. The problem is, if your credentials get stolen somehow, they get into our network, your elevated credentials gives you far more access, I should say, to them than they should have. There's two ways to fix this. We can rewrite all those programs. I don't know how long that would take. We're barely producing what we can today. All the new things, let alone close all that off and rewrite all of our programs to access the individual PCs differently. So the secondary solution is we effectively buy a separate mainframe and we run it similarly to that portal you saw from F5. It almost becomes like we make a special cloud for the AS400 platforms. And no longer will we install those programs on the local machines. They won't run on your laptops or your desktops anymore. You will go in, you will log into something that it won't feel like this to the user, but effectively they'll be logging into a machine in the data center and run the programs from there. What we can do is those machines those are being run on, that's what this money pays for, we can lock those machines down, so if somebody were to find them, number one, because they're buried in the network and no longer on a desktop. Two, we can stuff them in a box tight enough that they won't be able to go anywhere even if they took over your credentials and had extended access. Because the reality is those machines only do one thing, and that's run the AS400 programs. They're not going to be able to access the databases that way if they were to steal the credentials. All they could do is literally mess up that individual machine. This closes our number one security hole. When we do penetration tests, we learn lots of interesting things. But the second that these folks figure out that we have this going on in our machines, they describe it as locking your front doors while leaving your garage door open. We have to close this. We can't rewrite those programs. God knows we don't want to buy new ones and replace them all. I think that's why you see it's number two. Number three, that's that F5 portal and web security, SaaS, software as a service security system that we already own. We must expand it. It's being consumed very rapidly. This is the item that will keep our credentials within our network borders. This effectively takes it from a virtual system that we have right now to an actual physical server system. It gives us a lot more horsepower, and we can run a lot more programs through it and a lot more users as time goes by. Like I mentioned, more and more services are going to this software as a service as opposed to something you install locally. This is the only way we're gonna make sure our folks are safe. Palo Alto Global Connect, number 5, was pretty low on the list for us. What this does, I wrote in there, secures mobile tablets and laptops while off network and not on VPN. Here's the reality. You have a laptop. You want to get to your county information. You fire off the Cisco VPN. You log in. Your computer works like you're here. If you don't have that operating, you're on somebody's Wi-Fi, your house, Starbucks, you pull up your web browser, you can browse the web. You can go anywhere you want, look at anything you want. And you don't have any of the protections that we have in place other than antivirus that's installed on those machines. When you're on our network, we filter your web. We're looking at the advertisements. We're scraping that off the websites. If you ever look at a website when you're on your computer here at work, sometimes you see these boxes that look funny with a little red X. That's us scraping these website ads out. That's where some of those links are found when someone's clicked on something they shouldn't have. All that's gone when you're off of our network. Palo Alto would allow us to give the same sort of security and filtering that you would have as if you were here, and you don't have to have the VPN up and running. We can put this on tablets and laptops or anything else that we need to as technology moves forward. We did a separate set for the new headcount that we asked for. Quite a few supplementals, I summed them together, but for anybody we added, we put down in there as requested the new equipment we would need to purchase for those folks, phones, desks if we need them, computers, licenses depending on the jobs they have, and that's the $158,000 you see there. And based on the questions that were given yesterday, where would these people sit? Well, if you've been in the IT office recently here in the courthouse, we did push things aside and make a rather large area where we do sort of meetups or areas to kind of gather as groups. We could eat into that, that's one option. Put in some small cubes there. Another option would be to disassemble the cubes that we have, which are as old as this building. They're very large, so each cubicle is very large and nice working space. We could eat into that. The problem is those cubes are so old, the manufacturer doesn't exist anymore. We've talked to operations about this, so we would literally disassemble these things and not have the replacement parts to make them smaller. So we'd have walls hanging and unfinished and open. So we'd have to replace all those, and I really don't want to buy all new cubes for this office. And another option could be some sort of hot bunking where we are doing a rotational work from home thing. That would be no cost to the county. All options to be discussed if this happens. Second focus of 3. Supplemental I was given to is $670,000. It's 5 different projects in one, all related to either aging equipment or growth. Replacing our backup software that's end of life. There's a licensing change that Microsoft is thrusting on us there. We don't have a choice there. Microsoft driven, $50,000. The county Wi-Fi is nearing its end of life. Our Wi-Fi is used more and more every day, and it is expanding even though it needs to be life cycled. More and more departments are buying laptops and tablets. We have to replace that before they die. People would not be happy with us if our Wi-Fi went down. And then the last 2 is storage growth. Listening to the very important project that's going on with faces and the file scanning. We budgeted money in there in that project for storage expansion, but I always think of this when we talk about it. Every day we're making new data, and we're saving more documents and putting it somewhere. Well, that somewhere's there. We're chewing up a lot of storage. It has to do with our retention that's required of us, even our best practice for retentions. That's literally what that is, the growth of the county's digital business. And then, of course, we have to back that up because we can't have one copy of it. That's why there's 2 line items there, $150,000 and $50,000, all growth. Now our third one. As the sheriff said yesterday, that deserves a drink. This has to do with Microsoft, the operating system on all of our computers, and Microsoft Office that we use for documents. This is from Microsoft. This is how they release their support dates for when they launch a program, when they have what's called end of mainstream support, which means you're not buying it new anymore, and then end of extended support, which means software patches and security updates. Windows XP is long gone. Windows Vista, God help us if we owned any of that. As you see, we have Windows 7 is on there. And in January 14th of 2020, there will be no more security updates for that. Ada County has over 2,000 machines that are running Windows 7. We need to start working on that now because that's a lot of machines to upgrade the operating systems on. And just for fun, skip over that Windows 8 piece and look at Windows 10. It's going end of mainstream support in October of 2020. That means somewhere around there, we're going to see whatever is after Windows 10 is going to show up in the market, and that's what's going to start showing up on any new machines we start buying at that time. And then it's going to die off in 2025. The way my life is while I work here, 2025 is going to be here 6 months, it seems like. So we have to figure out how to handle this to get ahead of it quickly. And something that this graph shows is Microsoft is consistent in doing this to everyone. Every 5 years, there's a change coming. So it puts a big burden on the IT department, and it causes these spikes in sudden spend that needs to pop up. I like to control that a little better. So here's the ugly spreadsheet I was talking about. In the past, since 2012, our 6-year cost for Windows, Office, CALS has to do with individual people using your network. Exchange is our email system, maintenance for the email system, and ComV is our email repository and searching engine. We were running at about $280,000 a year. Where we're faced at this year, because of the way they're changing their licenses for Office, we're jumping up to $500,000 a year. Office, like I said, is the programs we use for documents and spreadsheets. $500,000 a year is going to get us 1 device per user. We have 2 options to try to spend our money more wisely. And I get that this is a hard thing to try to explain to you in such a short order. I'm happy to talk about this with you some more. But the first option, 2019 SA at the top there, service assurance. It allows us to buy into something and then sort of pay to keep the maintenance going. That's all that means. For about $14,000 a year bottom line, we can have 2 devices per user. So they take the total number of employees you have, you pay at that level, and then we can install Windows and Microsoft on 2 different machines for that. Right now, with the current 1 device per user, every time someone else around here buys a new machine, they got to throw another $450 to $500 to license out the Microsoft stuff that they wanted. And it's not automatic. I'll tell a little story about a good friend of mine, Sheriff of Ada County, who has a laptop that he uses for emails, almost entirely for that. And everyone knows that he uses it for emails. Then he took it on a trip to do a presentation, and he found that there was no Office on there. It's hard to show a PowerPoint presentation, I'm sure it was a good one, when you don't have Office on there. And I was embarrassed because I felt bad for him. He was all the way up in Coeur d'Alene calling me saying, I don't have PowerPoint on this machine. And of course, you kind of ask, well, how can that be? And that's immediately what I think, well, how can that be? Like I said, it's not an automatic thing that these licenses come on there. Whenever he got this laptop, I don't know what the discussion was, but it was probably, I'm not going to use this for very much. I'm going to use it when I'm home so I can read my emails or whatever the story is. Don't take this as me blaming you, Sheriff, for, where is he, for any of this. So, I get that a lot. But it shows where this is hard. It really is hard. And of course, it's going to sneak up and get you when you least need it, right? I know everything worked out for him. He was able to do his presentation. I'm not exactly sure how he did it. I suppose I owe him something for that. But this 2019 software assurance piece would allow us, at least give us 2 per user instead of having to, should we spend $500 on this laptop or not? That's the question that happens. And I think at some point, somebody said no. Option 2, that's more, but there's some unique things come with it. That is Office 365. That takes care of our Windows operating system for all of our machines. It's going to put Office on every one of the machines. It eliminates a bunch of the exchange costs. It's not really visible because Office 365 by itself is more expensive. But it gives us a couple of interesting things. Something you should know, we have 4 different versions of Microsoft Office in the county, folks that are using. That means sometimes when offices and departments are emailing back and forth, who's ever got the newest one has to downgrade what they've saved so that somebody who's got a really old one can read the file that they made. And it can be a constant battle for those folks. This flattens all of that out. Everybody's using the same software. Everybody's got the same operating system. And we're not showing up in 2020 telling some department, hey, you have 35 machines you have to present to the board that you need to spend operational dollars on to put Windows 10 on all of a sudden. We've done that to the sheriff's office several times. We've done it to operations. That's how this goes. Office 365, my opinion, is the right way to go. Definitely the most expensive. Something else it does for us. it gives us 5 licenses per employee. So even though it's more expensive, we have more capability to install this on far more machines than we ever had before. And as an added benefit, as an employee of the county, they can go to Microsoft, put in their employee credentials, pay $10 a year, and they can get the same license we do for their house. If you ever bought Microsoft 365 for yourself, it can be pretty expensive annually. Well, it's now $10 for any employee that works here. These are options to consider. We have to do something. We're looking at over $500,000 a year. Something I should call out, I believe it's on this slide right here. The amount that was put forward in the supplemental is $853,000. Because Microsoft is so much fun, the way our current contract operates right now, that $853 is really for 19 months. It has to do with how our licenses expire. But when you break it all down, that's why I've struggled with how to make this thing look. It comes out to these numbers you see here per year, 547. That's really what the annual 12-month cost is. So when you see why do those numbers not match, that's because we're talking about a 19-month license cycle. So I'm sure you're looking at this going, oh my gosh, IT is out of control. We're spending money, bringing things on, adding projects, writing software, helping people buy software. What can we do? I feel it too. The Transformation Board was something that I loved. I thought it was excellent. I still do, don't get me wrong. But it changed a little bit this year. And the way it changed, it focused on facilities, which is clearly the county's biggest problem right now. But when they focused on that, it took out a platform for me as the IT director or the IT shop, showing what it is, major issues or projects we have going on. There was no place for that Office 365 stuff in front of the Transformation Board because of the way it's set up right now. I feel we lost something there. When I say we, I mean the IT department. Because that was really the only place we had to show anybody what it is we're trying to do or why we need to do something. And I think it was helpful for the folks that sat around that table to hear what our points were, what we were working on. And I think it even built a little trust that we're not just doing stuff upstairs on the 3rd floor, not talking to anybody about it. So, respecting that the Transformation Board has evolved into something else, I'm going to propose something different. This would need to be set up, I think, between all the electeds and the departmental offices. I'm proposing we set up a committee, similar to the Transformation Board. We'd have to work out governance and all the pieces and parts that come along with that. But large counties, large cities, they have things like this already in place. Effectively what it is that basically would meet, in my mind, once a quarter. And in there, one of the first things we'd talk about, we'd review the large IT projects that we had on the road. Effectively, anything that you were to budget for us this year, we would show, this is the project, here's where we're at. Really, the only time I do that is when I'm in front of you folks once a year. This would allow anybody who, hopefully everyone in these departments and offices would participate, their chance to come in and see what we're doing and how well we're doing it. Or maybe we're not doing it well. This is where we'd find that out. The second thing they do is they would discuss potential new IT business or projects. Now with the project managers that I'm hoping to get, that I'm asking for, and the additional business analysts that I'm asking for, when someone comes to us and says, we need some sort of technology to do something, well, we would sit down with them and go through what their requirements were, what they need, and document all that, come up with some sort of scope of work. Either build or buy, doesn't really matter in this case. But in the next meeting of the Technical Advisory Committee, IT, with this client, office department, whoever it is, would present this to the other folks on the board and say, we want IT to build this, we want to purchase this item, it's important, this is the funds that it's coming from, this is why we need it for our line of business. And let folks kind of hear what we're doing, meaning what this client is looking for. Right now, it's pitched to the IT department. Is this something we can build? Is this something we feel we can train people to build? Is it my opinion this is the type of business we should be in, building this type of stuff? And it's kind of decided between myself, my management team, and the department that's talking to us. I feel like that should have a little bit more visibility. Not because we make bad choices, but because even when we're not buying something, there's a cost. And that's a lot of what you're seeing today. The added heads, the reclasses, special salary adjustments, the rising tide of all the boats. And the third one, it's a great platform to people to come and ask us questions or talk about what other technology can the county use or utilize or just can impact it in some way or some other business they can get involved in. That's what this TAC would do. Of course, we'd turn around and we'd submit some sort of report to the BOCC to at least approve things in concept. And you would certainly know when some of these projects, these technology projects were coming a little sooner than once a year in second week of June. It's my last slide. So, where does IT need to go? What does this really mean? Before you is something, is an idea I have on how IT needs to deliver everything we deliver. This is not a new structure for IT necessarily. It's more of a set of concepts. We need to have an IT application services mentality, an IT infrastructure, an IT quality and operations. And then, as you see on the right, where it talks about elected offices, non-elected or internal support, those are the clients. In between there, the green arrow service delivery, there's that bar that's vertical. It says business relationship management. That is our project management organization. That's where I'm asking for the most people. That needs to be the front end, the tip of the spear, what happens with county IT going forward. So that they can translate what's needed and necessary, purchase-wise, development-wise, whatever's going on with IT, whatever we've been requested into these ideas on the left. Across the very top, this bar that's horizontal, goes across all of it, that's the TAC. Because in that idea is where, or in that group is where the county comes up with its focus and its priority of it, what it wants, what it thinks the IT department should be doing. We really don't have that. I think it's inadvertent. No one's tried to set that up. It's just kind of happened that way. And our business has grown so rapidly and so wide now. We have to do something to handle our business better. So with that, that is the end. You're certainly welcome. I know I'm welcome, and I will stand for any questions that you may have.
Any questions for Director O'Mara?
You're kidding me, right? No, I don't really have any questions. I appreciate the presentation, and I know that we're looking for better ways to do business, and I appreciate the presentation very much. Thanks, Steve.
Commissioner Visser?
I do. Can you do it shorter next year?
Well, I realize now that I went over time, but the little light didn't go on, so I'm kind of
Well,
disappointed there.
I can make that happen.
Yeah.
We'll
been
definitely
outta
work on
here.
that next year. So I do have some questions though, Mr. Chairman.
Go ahead.
But humor is good for the audience and the bench, so that's what we went with there. Earlier in your presentation, when you talked about this remote desktop portal access, it seemed like our commissioners some of the only ones that have that, and there is a high risk associated with that? Do we need that? Because right now I've been getting along fairly good with an iPad.
Well, what you have is, you have a unique software that most people don't even know exists.
Me included.
Well, and that program resides locally on your devices. Folks, the offices, everybody else, the budgeting system, the payroll system, the HR system, all that is also run out of that same mainframe. And so even though they don't have the special commissioner program, it kills me when that breaks, by the way. There's only 3 people in the whole place that use it, and then of course it breaks. But we have, these programs are actually ultimately touched by everybody in the county at some level. And so they all have that same issue where we have to basically sequester them, put them off somewhere to protect the capabilities of what our logins can do. So when we pull those off the machines, we'll be able to reduce what you can do to your computer as a user. and that safeguards our network.
Okay, that's
That
a
answers.
good answer, thank you. Another question I have is, when you addressed personnel needs and you wanted to add some employees, you talked about the possibility of working at home. What risks are associated with working at home with I'm assuming they're gonna use their own computer, or not necessarily?
No, they would.
That's
We would
what I
want
would
them to
think.
use their own devices, yes, sir. That would be something, right now, the policy, the county, I know for a fact, does not allow that. That's something that would have to be approved. It's just an option. I'm not sure if we're at that point. I'm not sure how others in this room might feel about that. But from a management point of view, we would have to watch pretty closely what they're doing and manage their projects and make sure folks are doing what they're doing. But the reality is the business is here. We have to put people somewhere. And as all you've heard since Monday is we don't have somewhere. We have some space that we can eat into, and we can certainly do that. And I'm willing to, whatever we need to do. I'll take the head counts over.
Is there a high expense related with that, or moderate, just a rough estimate?
It's a moderate, I think a cube, if we were to build all new cubes, Renee, what's a cube run? Like about $5,000 a cube. That's, depending on if you're looking at my budget or not, that's a lot of money or not.
Right.
So
And a cube being one user, or is that being a group of off-site users?
it would be one,
One, okay.
user. Mhm.
Okay, thank you. And then the last question is, I've considered that Office 365 for personal use, but it is too expensive.
It is personal.
And I know it says 5 license per user, I believe that's what it said on there, but you're not in a scenario where you can share licenses no matter what. If they're not used, would it benefit us?
If they're not used, no. But as we've seen recently, and we're buying all the devices, it used to be there were very few laptops.
Right.
Tablets, laptops now are starting to fly. That's why I said we have to update our
You've
Wi-Fi.
seen a
firmware.
laptop fly? Amazing.
Once.
Didn't fly.
Yeah, that's right, okay.
Time. So then there you got multiple pieces and it's not.
Drone-based laptop.
Right. That's a valid point. It opens up options. It doesn't mean that we will utilize every one of those.
Right.
But of course, Microsoft licenses based on the number of users we have that log into our network. So they basically get us for every single employee we have.
Right.
Not every employee certainly will have 5 devices. Most will not.
Okay.
But it definitely eliminates the problem that I had with the sheriff and him having a machine out there that nobody realized didn't have it on there. It would be on there and it would match. We have that problem too. Somebody's a brand new laptop and an old desktop, old office over here, new office over here. Again, more difficulty for the users.
And do you believe Microsoft will stick with their Windows format of turning out a new OS every so many years instead of?
Well, yeah, we've talked about that a lot, and we're kind of wondering what's going to happen when Windows 10 is near its first end of life. We kind of have an over or under whether they're going to force us to do this anyway,
Right.
where your operating system will just be Windows, and every so often you'll get a new version or some sort of uplifted version. And for them, I think they'll move everybody eventually. Office 360, it'll just be Windows. It'll already be all buried in the cloud anyway. This just kind of gets us
Software will
ahead
be
of the,
non-existent.
pretty much. That's where it's heading. So sort of gets us ahead of the game. It's not really the reason to do it, but I think sooner or later we'll be faced with
I
it.
think Microsoft has given us a warning because Windows 7 is lasting much longer than Windows 10 is projected to last, with a 2020 cutoff date versus a 2025 cutoff date.
I would imagine that that's because Windows 8 was so unpopular.
Yeah. Okay.
10 was
Thank
re-
you, Stephen. Appreciate it.
absolutely.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
You bet. Well, Stephen, great job as usual. I'm the liaison to IT. I recall having, when we hired you and we gave you the direction that we needed to go, it's been a difficult journey for you coming on because in the condition that and I'll have to admit, my first year, maybe first 2 years as commissioner, we didn't look at IT very much as getting those funding requests that we should have. and it puts you behind the eight ball, puts your whole team behind the eight ball. I know that we've been trying to get caught up. There's a lot of end-of-life stuff that's been ignored that we need to get taken care of. So certainly understand the position it puts you and your team in, but yeah, I would like to see, at least moving forward that IT has become like, I don't know, I'll describe it, you'll probably get mad at me because it may be an insult, but it's almost like a utility we have to have. It's like the power. We've developed into an age of technology where we have to have it to function. And really, we need to have the things that's going to make us secure, that's going to give us the abilities to do our job. And, I've been impressed with your leadership. So thanks for the presentation. Good job. Good job to your whole team. Appreciate everything you all do.
Thank you, sir.
That's it. You can run now
Bill.
till we deliberate next week, right? Okay, Kathleen, does anybody need a break before we get going? You guys good? No, good? All right. Kathleen, we have, looks like EMS is up next.
Emergency Medical Services, or EMS, also known as the Ada County Paramedics, ACP, is headed by Director Darby Weston and is the sole provider of 911 emergency services for the city of Boise, Garden City, Meridian, Eagle, Star, and rural Ada County. ACP assists CUNA with second-in coverage. Along with the Ada County City Emergency Services System, or Access Partners, who are Boise, Meridian, Eagle, Star, and CUNA fire departments, ACP provides 24/7 advanced life support through its operation of 14 paramedic stations strategically placed in Ada County. EMS is a special taxing district enterprise fund. Budget for FY19 is $18,050,638. Increase of $832,712, operating budget of $5,207,501, and a personnel budget of $12,843,137. This budget includes supplemental requests of $412,756, and I'd like to turn it over to Darby Weston.
Thank you, Kathleen. Darby, the floor is yours.
Did I get it on the right slide?
That is the right slide. Mr. Chairman, Commissioners, thank you very much. I realize Steve has really put us behind the eight ball here, but I'm going to do everything I can to get you back on your schedule. So Ada County Paramedics has been operating since 1975. And what I put on this first slide is really the foundations of how we do business. Our philosophy is based on our core principles. We value our personnel. We develop their abilities to serve as EMS leaders, patient care providers, and healthcare advocates. And those core principles that we operate under are humanity, the value we put on every human being, and the respect and the dignity and compassion that we believe should be given to everyone that we interact with, integrity, transparent honesty in what we do and how we do it, trust the outcome of our character and our competence, our integrity, our intent, our capabilities, and the results we deliver. Excellence, not as an outcome, but as a process. Everything that we do, and especially in the field of medicine, is evolving. And if we don't stay on the front edge of that, pretty soon we lose our ability to deliver the very best care that's available. And so excellence, always looking for how we do something better, building on the collaboration, the innovation, and the willingness to try things that have not been done before. And finally, stewardship. We are entrusted with a resource for our community. Being able to deliver high-quality service in a sustainable model with the best utilization that we can provide of those resources that we are entrusted with, we believe is very important. And with that, we carry out our mission of caring for you like we care for our own. We deliver pre-hospital health cares focused on our values. The first thing I want to do is recognize some of the benchmarks this last year for employees that have been with us and were recognized by the board for 25 years of service. Paramedic Mike Nugent, paramedic Randall Feaster, and our office administrator, Stacy Wynn, have all been with us for 25 years. As an organization, we really pride ourselves on a very low turnover, a high retention of our personnel, and bringing the quality and the experience that retention provides to our community. One of our other highlights of the year was the American Heart Association Mission Lifeline Gold Award. This is an award given by the Heart Association for meeting the highest level of benchmarks in the care of STEMI patients, which are those who are having an acute heart attack that can be taken care of in the cath lab and a stent placed in the artery, and they walk out of the hospital a couple days later without a heart attack anymore. And so the benchmarks we hit is the acquisition of 12-lead, transmission of the 12-lead to the hospital, delivery of the patient, set scene times. We make sure that we are on the absolute front edge of that. We're also seeing that across all of the time-sensitive emergencies. In trauma care, those same kind of standards are applied. And in stroke care, those standards are evolving quite rapidly right now, as the ability in the medical community to take a stroke, which when I started wasn't even an emergency. If you had a stroke, you went to the hospital and they sent you off to rehab to learn how to deal with your stroke. Today, they're able to do the same kinds of things that they can do with a heart attack. They're able to either dissolve the stroke or actually literally go into the vessels and pull the stroke back out. Get the clot out of your brain, and you walk out of the hospital fully functional and able to lead a life at 100%. We have completed a project this fall, or last fall. The commissioners and the executive leadership of St. Alphonsus broke ground on the new Medic 21 station. And earlier this spring, we were able to cut the ribbon on that station, and it's up and running today. This station represents a collaboration between Ada County and St. Alphonsus to the benefit of all of our community. The other collaboration that I want to highlight is the collaboration that we have with all of the other emergency responders. Back in 2013, we founded the Ada City County Emergency Services System. And we've been in this for 5 years now. The relationship that we have between the departments, our ability to deploy our resources collaboratively, to bring new resources to the community, and one of those that we have brought in is the Pulse Point, able to alert citizens that there is someone in need of CPR on their phone with what comes across like an Amber Alert. Somebody that knows CPR can find out that in the courthouse today, somebody is having a heart attack and needs CPR. Phones can go off in the heart attack or in the courthouse, and people can immediately respond. Bringing life-saving resources in the app, wherever an AED is located is identified. It's another level of service. Sharing of resources between agencies so that we have the best equipment out there and that we have it positioned in the right place. Ada County has taken over responsibility for all of the medical supplies that are used throughout the system so that we have integration and we have the same exact equipment no matter which rig shows up. The medications are identical. They're in the same vials. It's the same medication. It's the same equipment across the board. Training integration. When we started this project, we had different medical directors for different agencies, different sets of standing orders. Today, we all share medical direction. We share one set of standing orders across all of the agencies, and all of the field personnel that supply emergency medical services in our community come together to train. And when you train together and you work together, it works a whole lot better. Everybody knows what to expect. Everybody knows exactly what the expectations of the patient and the system are, and those expectations are the same across the board. In the last couple years, we have moved into system-wide quality assurance. And so not only do we do quality assurance within our own agency, But we do that same quality assurance process within all of the fire agencies in the access system, so that the evaluation of written reports and of the care that was given is held to the same standards across the board, across all of the agencies. You've heard several times before me, and so I'll just echo the same thing. It turns out Ada County is growing. I know, it's a shocker, right? We have seen over the last 5 years, we're seeing a 5% trend up each year. And so the demands and the loading on the system continues to increase. Prior to the current budget year we're in, we added a 24-hour resource. Before that, it had been several years since we had to add additional resource. But the system got to the point of capacity and then exceeded the point of capacity. And once we do that, we start eroding away our ability to respond in a timely manner. Probably the biggest expense we have in EMS is readiness. When you call 911, you don't have to call ahead for an appointment. You call when the emergency happens. And the key to a timely response is having a rig available within a distance that allows us to respond to your call in that 9-minute window of opportunity. And the better we are at doing that, the more effective we are in our outcomes. The flip side of that coin is if we were awesome at doing that, the cost of the system would go through the roof. And so it's a balancing act. We shoot for the 90th percentile. That puts us on scene in a proper amount of time for over 90% of the calls that we have. And it allows us to manage a system that is sustainable and that is operated at a cost that is appropriate for the community we serve and is not an untenable thing for them to bear. So for this year, in a budget, we are looking to add a 12-hour resource or half a unit. That will allow us to maintain pace with the increasing demands on the system and maintain the level of response performance that we have. For a 12-hour unit, we are asking for 3 paramedic positions and 2 EMT positions to staff that 12 hours a day, 7 days a week. We are also seeking an additional QA/QI captain. The QA workload, again, as we've been increasing our call volume, we've exceeded the capacity of the 2 people that we have doing that operation. And so we need an additional resource to be able to keep up with the demand. The other piece of this puzzle is that we do not have a resource in place to effectively do quality improvement. Quality improvement is our risk management tool. Taking a look at what we do, getting a detailed, in-depth evaluation of how effectively we have done it, and being able to push recommendations into the training department to push out to the field allows us that ability to assure that we are performing at the highest levels. We are asking for 3 administrative reclassifications. Those are function-based in our logistics department to align the positions and create a redundancy so that we are able to carry the full workload regardless of whether one position or both positions are available. And also one of our administrative positions simply as a function of a change in scope of work. We have a couple positions in here that we would like to adjust the salaries of, but we have not had a comprehensive survey done by the Human Resources Department to make sure that we're doing that the right way. So we have put a small amount of money into our budget as a contingency within a budget, and we will not ask for those at this time. However, we are planning as soon as HR has the ability to do that comprehensive analysis of our administrative positions and make those recommendations, we will bring those to you. The other piece that we are changing in the field, we have all of our paramedics on a step plan so that their salary is commensurate with their years of service up to the maximum. For paramedic, there are 10 steps in the plan. For the captain level, there are 5 steps. For the battalion chief, there are 5 steps. What this change will do is take the other field position that is not included in that, the EMT position, create 5 steps within that position so that they are treated equitably with the rest of the field. The other thing I would bring your attention to on your summary sheet, it shows an overtime increase of $167,000. 92,000 of that is positional overtime. All of our field positions come preloaded with 8 hours of overtime each week because our field positions work a 48-hour work week. And so it is calculated and designed into the position as a whole. So 92,000 of that is the addition of the 5 field positions to the system. The 75, or actually the 6, because the QA, QI captain fits in that same model. The $75,000 is an actual addition of overtime to cover the expenses that we have with sick vacation coverage and also with standby and event coverage and making sure that we have the resources available to put people in the seats when our services are requested. In our B budget, the biggest project we are taking on this year is the end-of-life radio replacement. The Motorola radios that we have purchased and used on the new 700 system have performed admirably, but they are at end of life and Motorola will no longer service or support those devices. And so without receiving the regular updates, the ability for us to maintain solid communications is put in jeopardy. And so we have budgeted $750,000 to replace the radios at their end of life. And in our capital projects, all of the funding that we provide for capital expenditures comes from carryover funds. These are monies that we have set aside in planning for growth in future and also replacement of equipment so that we are not asking for any additional tax resource to do this with. This is money that we have saved up for this purpose. Mobile computer replacements comes in at $90,000. Excuse me. Excuse me. Again, that's an end of life issue. The equipment in the vehicles is 5 to 6 years old, which is about all we can expect out of a computer system. IV pumps allow us to very specifically regulate drip medications that are given to a patient. The need for those now is due to some changes in the medical community as to which medications should be utilized. Also, primarily with respect to the stroke protocols, when you get TPA at the hospitals, there are some drugs that need to be given as they're transported. Ambulance replacement, this is our normal fleet replacement. And the cost of ambulances has not gone down. And finally, oh, thank you.
Forgot your water bottle.
You know, Stephen had his drinking problem solved. I didn't think about it ahead of time. Always. The last one on the list is tenant improvements for Station 15. With St. Al's, we just completed the project for Station 21. At St. Luke's downtown, St. Luke's is doing a major rebuild project to their facility. They have included an EMS station within that build, but it is 5 years away from today. And so St. Luke's is leasing a facility for us to move Station 15 to, and it will need some tenant improvements to build a garage to house the vehicle for the next 5 years. And so we will allocate some resources to that to be able to take care of that piece of the puzzle. And with that, thank you for your time, and I would stand for any questions.
Thank you, Darby. Questions for Darby?
And we are 5 minutes
Well,
ahead
we're
of
not done
schedule.
asking our questions yet.
No, just a comment that Darby and his staff and, you know, the paramedics and EMTs, I mean, you all do a great job. We love to see the attaboys that come to us. You're in a good position. You're saving lives.
Well, thank you.
Thank you.
Commissioner Visser?
Don't have any questions for you, Jacob.
All right.
Okay, I just have one. Regarding your radio replacement
Yes.
figure, will that take care of all of your radios? Is that just first year or what?
Yep, that's 100%.
100%? Okay.
Yep.
Well, again, kind of like Jim said, certainly appreciate all you do. Your team, magnificent team. We do get a lot of letters from your patients that's been forwarded to us about how well your team works and obviously the lives they save. So keep up the good work.
Thank you very much.
Thanks, Darby. Need a short break, or we good?
Maybe just to stretch your legs a little bit.
Stretch your legs.
If you got them, stretch them.
Why don't we take 5 minutes here, since Darby gave us a couple extra minutes at the end of his. We'll be in recess for 5 minutes. No.
Maybe.
Our next department that is up is juvenile. So we will hear a presentation from Kathleen first, and then Dawn will be addressing the board. So Kathleen, go right ahead.
Juvenile is headed by Director Don Burns and operates in 4 divisions: detention, probation, programs, and support services. Detention provides for the detainment, protection, and well-being of incarcerated youth while helping to ensure community safety. Probation provides comprehensive and collaborative supervision strategies focused on accountability, community protection, and skills development for youth in several levels of probation, from diversion to community supervision. The probation division strives to follow best practices and offers evidence-based services. Programs provide statutory screenings and assessments for the court, substance abuse treatment services, mental health counseling, alternate school education for youth on probation, victim services, and community service programming for juveniles to repay the community for their offenses. These programs foster youth and family growth, insight, and rehabilitation relevant to the juvenile justice system. Support Services is responsible for supporting the department's other 3 divisions and the director. Support includes the areas of budget finance, administrative, training, limited personnel support, business analysis, and planning and project management. Other support is provided to partners such as the prosecutor's office, public defender's office, courts, and the state departments of health and welfare and juvenile corrections. Juvenile is a department within the current expense fund. Included in this budget is our cigarette and tobacco tax grants, mostly because they are 100% pretty much employee supported. Budget for FY19 submitted at $7,186,357, an increase of $140,026. Operating budget of $748,771, a personnel budget of $6,437,586. This budget includes supplemental requests of $137,539 from the general fund and $42,200 from SIG and block grants. I'd like to turn it over to Dawn Burns.
Thank you, Kathleen. Dawn, you have the floor.
Thank you, Kathleen. Mr. Chairman, Commissioners, and members of the audience today, thank you for the opportunity to present the Ada County Juvenile Court Services FY19 budget request today. Based on the 152 full-time, part-time, and on-call employees, Juvenile Court Services is the 5th largest department in the county. I'm pleased to report, however, that the department has historically been fiscally conservative, and if you went just based on our FY17 budget of $8.8 million, we would come in 8th. Juvenile Court Services, through a cooperative agreement, assists the courts in working with youth by providing detention, probation, and rehabilitative options. In fiscal year 2017, we served 596 youth in detention, 1,251 youth on probation, and provided outpatient counseling services for 471 youth. We also partnered with the prosecutor's office to provide supervision to 378 low-risk juveniles who were diverted from the court but still held accountable for their actions. As Kathleen mentioned, you see before you our organizational chart, and you'll note that the department is made up of 4 divisions. 3 of the divisions work directly with youth and families. Detention maintains a safe and secure environment for youth in confinement while providing education and a wide variety of short-term programming. Also in this division, our kitchen and medical staff ensure that youth are well cared for during their stay. Probation assists the courts through court investigations, supervising juveniles in the community, and ensuring that court orders are followed. In many ways, probation is the face of the department. They work closely in the community with the parents, law enforcement, schools, and our other partners. Our programs division provides clinical assessments to the court, substance abuse and mental health treatment to youth in detention and in the community. The division also provides victim services and a variety of community service and education opportunities to help youth learn about and address problem behaviors and to recapture missing school credits or get their GEDs. Support Services, our fourth division, supports the other three divisions through financial management, personnel-related tasks, analysis, and training. Overseeing all of this is our leadership team. Our leadership team is made up of myself and each of our four division managers. Last fall, the leadership team spent a good deal of time reviewing the services that we offer within each division. Our focus was to look at efficiencies and identify gaps. We organized our services into 6 general areas based on where they fall in the continuum of juvenile justice intervention, from prevention through court involvement and finally to reentry into the community. What you see before you is a summary of the services we provide in black type and the identified gaps in white. Although we coordinate with schools and community partners for lower risk prevention and early intervention services, the majority of our resources are focused on providing services to youth who are court involved or those who are being diverted from going to court. The services listed here are summarized at a very high level, but still represent an array of options to address community safety and serve the courts, youth, and families in the community. And frankly, from my perspective, it's impressive in its scope. On behalf of the department, I want to thank you, commissioners, for your support of these services. With our juvenile justice colleagues and other partners, we are a leader in assessing and addressing juvenile crime and delinquency in Idaho. After performing this exercise, however, it became clear that our 2 greatest service challenges are in staffing our detention medical department and in finding a method to connect youth with available community-based programs when they re-enter the community after confinement or treatment. Standing behind the continuum is our wonderful staff. Employees are our greatest resource, but in this tight labor market, as you've heard in presentations prior to mine, is also one of our greatest challenges. For example, probation has experienced a 20% turnover this year. Because our employees are highly trained, they are often recruited by law enforcement agencies across the state for higher pay. In this year's budget, we're trying to address some of these department challenges, but we recognize it will be a multi-year effort. It went up from 18 to 20% in 2 days, just saying. This fall, the leadership team also developed what we call decision-making anchors. The team uses these anchors to ensure we stay the course and navigate department decisions. Obviously, we consider safety and our impact on youth and families as our highest priorities, and we consider the bearing our decisions have on our partners. We hold good stewardship of resource to be one of our strongest values. I believe you'll see that reflected in this budget request. Last year, based on an independent staffing analysis, we came before you asking for 6 new detention positions for a total of $300,000 to meet Federal Prison Rape Elimination Act, or PREA, staffing requirements. You gave us 3 officers with the understanding that we would review the other 3 positions this year. I'm pleased to report that due to a combination of factors, including current bed utilization trends and policy changes within the department, these positions are no longer our highest priority. We've been able to maintain our PREA ratios at this staffing level, although we had a few close calls last winter due to the severity of the flu season. The additional overtime dollars that you granted us last year allowed us to address staffing shortages as needed. Thank you. You also helped us adjust a few salaries commensurate with the creation of the Support Services Division and the change to a model of division manager leadership. These moves paved the way for us to develop career paths that I'll be describing shortly. Lastly, you helped us strengthen our management and span of control in probation through the creation of an assistant probation manager position. This has decreased the number of employees directly supervised by the probation manager, freeing her to address the remaining policy issues needed to related to the Odyssey transition. This also has helped us to better address recent Supreme Court policy changes. Last year's funding put us in a good position for moving forward to this year. This year, we have 3 overall budget goals: shoring up our detention medical staffing, expanding our career paths to include detention in the clinical divisions, and addressing the two most pressing identified gaps in our service continuum, specifically probation's ability to process arrest reports and the programs division's ability to connect youth reentering the community to appropriate community-based services. This year, we've submitted 5 supplemental requests to address these challenges for a total general fund impact of $137,539. These supplementals would allow us to leverage another $42,000 from state cigarette tax and block grant funds. Before I get to the details of the requests, I'd like to touch base on how we made many of these decisions. You'll remember that we contracted with an outside provider to help us prepare for the PREA staffing request this time last year. In addition, we worked very closely this year with Human Resources to review staffing and salaries for the whole department in detail. In particular, HR helped us develop our career paths, including individual positioning in the plan and setting the appropriate salary ranges for each level of the plan. In looking at the whole department again, the probation division in blue has 46 employees. Probation has had a career path in place for about 12 years. 33 probation officers are included in the career path. This year, Mr. Chairman, we're asking the board to help us establish career paths for the 29 detention officers in yellow and the 10 counselors and clinicians in the programs division in that lovely shade of purple which matches Steve's shirt. To round out the department, the staffing pattern in the support services division does not lend itself to a career path, and the administrative specialists in all divisions were adjusted last year as part of the countywide market increase. As I mentioned, probation has an existing career path which includes probation officers 1, 2, and 3. We expect PO1s to progress to PO2s in a reasonable time frame. Progression to level 3, however, is an individual choice because it entails additional responsibilities and duties on top of their existing caseload. To be promoted, individual officers must successfully meet predetermined performance goals. We believe 10 officers are on track to meet their career goals in FY19. The general fund impact of these promotions is $3,736, combined with about $15,000 of state cigarette tax and block grant monies. This year, we're asking you to consider funding a career path for both detention and our clinician staff. Creating a career path for detention officers has been in the works for a couple of years. HR was instrumental in helping us rewrite our job descriptions, place officers in the various levels in the plan, and develop salary expectations for each individual. The career path we're proposing includes adjustments for 21 of the 29 officers in the plan. I'd also like to take a moment to thank you for the market increase that you gave detention in fiscal year 2015. To be clear, the request today is not a market increase. HR developed the salary ranges for this plan based on the existing detention salaries so that the 2015 market adjustments were not lost. This request is based on placing individuals in the appropriate level in the plan. The general fund impact of this career path is $50,195. Here briefly is how the detention career path is laid out and the requisite performance criteria for each level, including successful completion of a practical exam to demonstrate knowledge and performance competency. There are 3 detention officer levels, and you'll note that level 3 requires the individual to be in charge of a specialty work area such as programming and maintaining the radios. Currently, 5 individuals are on track to be in detention officer 3s. I believe that developing career paths is one critical piece of maintaining and recruiting a skilled, talented workforce. We're starting to see some of our best and brightest officers leave for more money and advancement in other fields. In FY17, we lost 3 officers. In FY18 to date, we've already had another 4 officers leave. That means we've had to replace almost 25% of our detention officers in a year and a half. In detention's most recent job posting, only 2 of the 8 applicants were even qualified for the position. The clinical career path is just a little different than the other 2 in that it requires completion of advanced educational degrees and certifications, in addition to successfully completing performance goals. The general fund impact to implement this plan is $322, and no, that is not a typo, with another $27,000 in state cigarette tax and block grant funds leveraged. As you can see, there are also 3 levels to this plan. You'll note that there are very specific licensure requirements and hours of practice needed based on state law. We believe this plan is important to ensure that the time and energy a youth spends in treatment yields the best results possible. I hope you'll consider funding the detention and clinical career paths. The impact to taxpayers is not large considering the number of people affected. Moving on to our 1 new position request, we are requesting to add a new medical position to our medical team. Currently, our 4-person team covers detention from 6 a.m. to 9:30 p.m. 7 days a week. These positions address not only physical health needs, but also monitor and make recommendation to our contract doctors when psychotropic or other medication adjustments are needed. The need for staff coverage is independent from the number of youth in detention, but as the number of youth with medical needs, and particularly mental health needs, increases, so does the need for sufficient, competent medical staff. In the past, we've used on-call staff to cover vacation and other planned leaves. That pool has all but dried up in the tight labor market. If a medical staff wishes to take a vacation, the other staff generally must work overtime to cover those shifts. As such, our overtime needs exceeded our budget in FY17. The fiscal impact to general funds is $51,011. There are no additional space, furniture, or computer equipment needs for this position. We would also like to ask you to consider 3 reclassification requests. After the juvenile court restructuring, we have been partnering with the prosecutor's office to find a way to get full arrest reports from law enforcement. Previously, we received copies of these reports through the prosecutor's office, but Odyssey's increased workload has made it difficult for them to get their staff to get redacted reports to us in a timely manner. We agreed that it was more cost-effective for our department to handle the increased workload rather than the prosecutor's office. With the prosecutor's help, we have established relationships with local law enforcement and are in the final stages of meeting federal and local confidentiality requirements. I believe we can meet this increased need without asking for a new position by instead expanding a part-time position to a full-time position with benefits. The general fund impact of this position, including the benefits, is $32,275. And lastly, we request that you would approve the reclassification of our clinical supervisor to the program's assistant division manager, and also reclassify a community service specialist to a program specialist. The reclassification of the clinical supervisor would place the programs division in the same structure as detention and probation and would allow the individual to perform additional managerial duties. The reclassification of the program specialist position would allow us to address the identified gap in referrals to the community-based programming that we discussed in our continuum of services. There is no fiscal impact to the general fund in either one of these. We were able to cover them with the limited costs within our budget. We just wanted you to be aware that you'd be seeing them come through the PAF system. Mr. Chairman and Commissioners, our budget requests in order of priority from highest to lowest are, first, funding the existing probation officer career path promotions because we have people on track to meet their performance goals in FY19. Beyond that, I would respectfully ask you to fund the new medical attendant position as our new top priority. Following in that priority is establishing the detention career path. Our fourth priority is to reclassify the administrative specialists from part-time to full-time to address those arrest reports. And finally, at a minimal impact to the general fund, we would ask you to establish the clinician career path. In summary, fully funding this request would cost the general fund $137,539 and would positively impact the lives of about 44% of our staff. Mr. Chairman and Commissioners, I believe in this tight labor market that's fiscally responsible. I'd be happy to answer any questions at this time.
Thank you, Don. Any questions for Don?
Go ahead, Jim.
No, I don't.
Okay, no question, just a comment briefly.
Commissioner Visser?
Thank you, sir. Don, thank you for a very austere budget presentation, and also a thank you for anticipating the balancing and challenges the board will be facing by putting forth priorities. But we do appreciate your service and the team that you have. Your leadership has been outstanding in this role, and it's been a pleasure to work for you. Thank you for serving the citizens of our county.
You're welcome, Commissioner.
Mr. Tibbs, anything?
No, sir.
Don, good presentation.
Thank you.
I'm the liaison to Dawn over there, so I'm very well aware of everything she's asking for, and I don't think anything's out of line. I go back, she mentioned the 2015 detention adjustment that we gave, and quite frankly, that needed to be done. We were way behind the market on that one, and I'm very supportive and have been of creating career ladders, and I'm glad to see your department putting forward the request for those career ladders in your detention and your, probation, wasn't it?
Clinics.
Or
Clinicians.
clinical, yes, I'm sorry. So I was paying attention, honest. But anyway, thank you. Thank you, crew. You guys do a great job. Appreciate you being here to support Dawn in her presentation. So I guess that's it.
Thank you for your consideration, gentlemen.
You bet. Okay, well, we have, it looks like one final presentation for the day. And where'd she go? Oh, she's hiding. We are going to hear from Kathleen first. This is the Department of Administration and the commissioner's budget lines that we deal with. So Judy and Cassie will be coming up to talk to us, I think. But Kathleen, go ahead with yours.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Commissioners David L. Case, Jim Tibbs, and Rick Visser are responsible for the Department of Administration, General, and the Veterans and Public Health Funds. The Department of Administration is broken into three areas: community programs, commissioners, and administration. Community programs are programs that benefit Ada County as a whole, such as the Humane Shelter, Senior Contracts, U of I Extension, Family Advocates, Compass, Allen Baugh House, and the Housing First Initiative. The Commissioner's Office oversees the operation of 12 departments, acts as the Board of Equalization, provides oversight for the fair and emergency medical services, and adjudicates indigent claims. They serve on various boards and committees, a few which include Compass, Valley Regional Transit Board, and Catastrophic Health Care. Additionally, the Commissioners are responsible for all county contracts, ordinances and resolutions, grant applications, and overall direction of Ada County. Administration is comprised of support for the Commissioners, human resources and benefits, risk management, and procurement. All functions support all Ada County offices and departments. This department also includes the Board of Community Guardianship, which is created to protect incapacitated adult use. General covers costs associated with all the offices and departments within the general fund. Costs such as litigation, attorney fees, postage, unemployment insurance, excise tax, and carries a contingency appropriation should the need arise. The county also budgets the funding for its capital projects in this department, and once the new fiscal year has arrived, that funding is then provided to the Capital Projects Fund to fund the projects the board adopted during the budget process. The Veterans Fund assists in the maintenance, upkeep, and repair of servicemen memorials within Ada County. This funding is provided directly to American Legion posts as requested and as directed by Idaho Code 65-102 and 103. And the Public Health Fund provides the county's portion of funding for services provided on a regional basis by the state of Idaho. This funding is provided directly to Central District Health as directed by Idaho Code 31-862. Before you, you see the Department of Administration's budget, a department within the current expense fund. Budget submitted for FY19 of $5,642,440, an increase of $686,471. Operating budget $2,915,528. Personnel budget $2,726,912. Supplemental requests included in this budget are $642,027. General is a department within the current expense fund. Budget submitted for FY19 of $2,786,746, a decrease of $2,019,730. Operating budget of $2,286,746, and a personnel budget of $500,000. This includes a supplemental request of $1,100,000. We have our Veterans Fund, which is a special levy fund, still part of the 3% cap. Budget submitted for FY19, $20,000, no change over the prior years. And finally, we have Public Health, which is a special levy fund as well, 3% cap funds. Budget for FY19 was submitted at $2,125,775, an increase of $35,950. The supplemental request here is for the addition of $24,753. Now I'd like to go ahead and turn it over to Judy Morris. I don't know who's going first. Cassie. Sorry about that, Cassie.
Cassie, come on up. The floor is yours. Thank you, Kathleen.
It's one of those or that.
Thank you for the privilege to present your budget to you today.
Sure.
Kathleen gave a great overview of the 7 divisions that are underneath the Department of Administration, so I am going to go straight into the 4A budget requests that we have this year. The first is a new position for the Board of County Commissioners. This position is a staff attorney. It's a supplemental request of approximately $80,000 per year. That's a loaded cost. This position would perform legal research and review communications for the Board of County Commissioners. The second request that we have is for Human Resources to turn one part-time position into a full-time position. Currently, HR has a part-time internal investigator. After reviewing and updating our hiring process, we are in need of a part-time background investigator. So therefore, we are requesting that our investigator become a full-time position. This is a supplemental request of $54,000. This position will process approximately 200 new hire backgrounds each year, as well as process the post-requirement backgrounds for juvenile detention officers and probation officers, and then perform employment investigations as needed. This small graph here demonstrates the need that we have for the increased hours. In the first quarter of this calendar year, we withdrew 10% of the conditional offers that were extended to applicants based on them not passing the background screening. The third request that we have is to combine human resources and employee benefits into one division. Currently, HR is responsible for the recruiting, training, such as new employee orientation and supervisor trainings, as well as for managing the personnel records for over 1,800 employees. Our Employee Benefits Division is responsible for compensation, leave management, and for employee benefits. As you're aware, our employee benefits is a self-funded healthcare trust that administers those benefits. This year, one of our highlights was that Arthur Gallagher Benefits Solutions did present the Board of County Commissioners with an award for being best in class for our benefits. This award was provided based on our ability to continue to provide exceptional coverage with low deductible premiums for our employees, as well as low cost share for those employees. With HR and employee benefits, we'd like to combine them under the umbrella of human resources so that the entire employee experience is all managed under Human Resources from hire to retire. This would also allow us to streamline internal marketing, provide opportunity for cross-training, which results in improved customer service for our employees, simplifies administration and planning, and as this is a cost-neutral request, it does provide more capacity for us to enhance our services. The fourth request that we have for the A budget is a market adjustment. This market adjustment is for the purchasing manager. It is within our current budget. This increase is to bring the position in line with similar positions that are offered in the local public sector market. The summary of our A budget requests are within our current budget is to combine employee benefits and human resources into one division and increase the purchasing manager's salary to market. And then we have two supplemental requests. One is to increase the investigator part-time position to a full-time position with benefits and to create a staff attorney position. Are there any questions that you have regarding the A budget requests?
Any questions for Cassie?
No, sir.
No, sir.
Okay, thanks, Cassie. Appreciate it.
I will turn it over to Judy.
Here we go.
Just tag teaming it, huh? Well, this young lady approaching the podium at this point has the job of herding cats, and she does a very good job of that, keeping us in line and keeping us advised of everything that we need to be doing within our office. So Judy, thank you for everything you do.
And thank you for letting me present your budget.
You go right ahead.
Okay, so I'll start with the Department of Administration. While most of the divisions did stay within their allotted funding, the department saw increases in subscriptions, equipment upgrades, and licensing. Included in this year's budget under Division 509 is the fiscal year 19 Idaho Association of County dues in the amount of $45.90. That's just for your consideration when you come to deliberations. Should the board approve the staff attorney position, there is currently an open office with computer and phone that can be used for the individual's immediate needs. I believe any additional needs that may come up would be able to come out of the budget without adding to it. Okay, so let's go. All right, so for their first supplemental request, we're asking for $175,000. This includes a lobbyist for $65,000. In 2017, the board did hire a lobbyist to work with Meridian's lobbyists, so we had a seat at the table to resolve the magistrate court funding issue that had been nearly 25 years old. At the end, there was positive turnaround, and the outcome was really good, and it's resolved. There's new legislation taking effect that'll phase in a 5-year plan so that the cities don't have to pay for the obligation while ensuring the counties statewide have guaranteed funding. So depending on what the issues are for 2019, we do want to budget for $65,000 and then see if we need that. The board's second supplemental request is for $110,000 to retain a consultant to work on an RFP process for banking services. It's my understanding that an RFP was done earlier this year, and it just came out over budget, so it was put on hold. I like this. The second slide is for HR is requesting a consultant to help with their 457B plan due to the expertise required to review and recommend investment portfolios. The current contract is up fiscal year 20, so this gives them time to get a consultant and start reviewing the process. E-procurement. This is a supplemental request for $35,000 per year. This is a software subscription. It's my understanding that it will go up at least 3% after the third year. And Bob is here to provide you information on that. You wanna?
Educate us, Bob.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, Commissioners. So an e-procurement system in a nutshell is, takes procurement websites, solicitations, publications, and vendor management and combines them under a third-party cloud-hosted solution. And really streamlines and manages the county's procurement processes. So the reason for the need is really comes to limits in our current functionality. And so what we'd like to have is a better way to manage our vendor database, to be able to create online solicitations, automatic notifications out to our vendors. So when they sign up for a commodity, they would be sent the solicitation for those that they signed up for. And the ability to do reverse auctions so that vendors would be able to bid down their prices in an auction format. So some of the benefits that we would see would be IT would be able to get us one step closer to our e-government initiative, and again, better management of projects. And also having a cloud-based solution will require very little of IT's time. So those things that I mentioned are benefits of an e-procurement system, but we also think it's going to save the county money by having a larger vendor pool to be able to solicit to, and also the ability to use reverse auctions.
Okay. Commissioner Visser, any questions?
No.
As, again, as the liaison with Department of Administration and IT, it's my understanding that you've worked closely with IT in developing this, and when you said it would take away a lot of, it would create less time for IT, I saw a big smile on Steve's face, so. Anyway, this is the second or third year you've put in for this?
Mr. Chairman, it's the third year.
Third year, okay.
Third time's a charm.
Jim says you are the procurement dude.
All right.
Okay, anything else on that?
Nope, that's everything.
Thanks, Bob.
All right, thank you.
All right, moving on. Okay, so this next supplemental request is for $220. It's for increases,
It's $220?
oh, 220,000. These are funding increases to our community programs. Capital Crime Defense is $157,425. They have not assessed dues on that for the last 2 years. Eagle Senior Center is requesting $5,000, which will bring their total to $20,000 per year. Garden City Center is requesting an increase of $480, which would increase their total funding to $16,480. And Star Senior Center is requesting $1,000 for a total of $16,000 per year. And then University of Idaho is requesting $34,000, and that's for a 3% salary increase for certain of their staff members. Their annual total contribution, if we include that, will be $365,497. $75,000 of that is paid annually from Expo Idaho. Then the last four increases are based on population. So it's ACCEM is increasing $5,439. Compass is increasing $7,208. Allenbaugh House is requesting $8,663, and VRT is requesting $1,543. Any questions before I
Any
move
additional
on?
information? Good there, okay.
So just some other considerations for you. Again, in the budget, we have budgeted for $45,590 if you choose to rejoin IAC. And also, we are budgeting in community programs $250,000 for Housing First Initiative. It's my understanding that some of those funds are going to be expended this year, but because we don't have that number yet, we're budgeting the full amount. And that's initially going to be a one-time fee until some result-based studies are able to be completed. Other requests that are not included in the supplementals is Idaho Humane Society. They're requesting $25,000 if they continue, they gave us a 6-month estimate, so if you carried that out 12 months, it would be 25,000. However, they were suggesting that they'd like to review that number in 6 months. And Boise Valley Economic Partnership is requesting 15,000. We had been working with them prior to 2018, but just with other things going on in the county, we did not renew it last year. So summary of budget requests, we have $65,000 for lobbyists, banking consultants, approximately $110,000, $60,000 for a consultant for HR to review the Fort 57B, e-procurement software, $35,000, and then $220,008 for community programs. Any questions?
Questions for Judy? Now's the time to put her on the spot.
No,
No questions. I think she did an excellent job.
thank you. We're not done though. Okay. So now now we'll review the general fund. We stayed within our allocated allotment this year. We are requesting $100,000 contingency in the A budget above and beyond what the clerk's office normally budgets after their 90% or 2% holdback. And then we would like to keep $1 million in the contingency B budget for any emergencies or maintenance repairs that were unanticipated to keep any financial strain should something come up during the year. Any questions?
No, I don't necessarily have a question on that, but maybe more a statement for the clerk's office and Kathleen that when we get into our deliberation, I want us to be able to discuss in clarity the meaning of this 2% holdback. Because I have some concerns on that, and anyway, so just make note of that when we get to that point. But
Public health, whoops. Their total request increase was 3.2% or $65,950. Because we were given an extra 2% this year for operational costs. The supplemental request on that, it's only $24,753. And then for Veterans Administration, their request was $20,000, which has been what they have been requesting for the last few years. And that, again, both public health and veterans are a special levy tax. And that, my friends, any questions?
questions for Judy?
Nope.
No? Excellent
you.
job, Judy. You know,
Thank
for
you so
someone who
much.
doesn't like to public speak, you did a great job.
And you're on video.
Yeah. Well, that does bring us to the conclusion of today's agenda. Kathleen, any final thoughts before we recess for the day?
No, sir.
Okay. Tomorrow at 1 o'clock, we will begin with the prosecuting attorney's office. At 2 o'clock, the treasurer. Looks like we have the auditor, indigent, consolidated, clerk, Avamore, beginning at 2:45. Public defender, 3:45. TCA problem-solving court and court monitoring at 4:15. So that looks like tomorrow's agenda. Thank you all. Appreciate your presentations. Appreciate all your hard work that you do. We will be in recess till 1 o'clock tomorrow on the budget.